our Women Who Lead Summit. This is about being seen, being valued, and leading powerfully without burnout or self-doubt. And in today's conversation, we are talking about courage, resilience, and reimagining what's possible, even when the odds are stacked against us. I am so deeply honored to introduce you to Rania Hoteit. She is a multi-award-winning serial entrepreneur, impact leader, advisor, executive coach, and international speaker. Rania's outstanding expertise and exceptional success has earned her recognitions from the White House, the United Nations, the UK House of Parliament, and many more global honors. She's been featured in Forbes, Inc., and Huffington Post, named among 7 disruptive women paving the way for success alongside Oprah Winfrey, and inducted onto Marquis, whose list of the most accomplished leaders in America. And through her work, Rania helps ambitious women and professionals transform struggle into success, redefine limits, and lead with courage, purpose, and resilience. Now, if you have ever faced setbacks, self-doubt, or roadblocks on your leadership journey, Rania's insights will inspire you to rise, defy the odds, and create success on your own terms. Rania, it is such an honor and pleasure to have you here on our summit today.
Thank you for having me, Debbie. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
I would love to start by talking about your leadership journey, which has been really extraordinary. Can you share some of the pivotal moments that when you personally had to defy the odds and redefine success for yourself?
First, let me give you an idea about how my journey started to give you more context about my life. I was born and raised in Beirut, Lebanon during wartime. My childhood was marked by violence, displacement, and instability. Our home was bombed several times, and my family was forced to flee across borders, seeking safety in Syria, then Jordan, and eventually we settled in Egypt until the war officially ended. When we returned to Lebanon, life as we knew it had irreversibly changed. The emotional and material toll had left deep fractures in both my family and our society as well. And as I approached the end of high school, it became increasingly clear that my parents wouldn't be able to afford my college education due to ongoing financial hardships. Faced with that reality, I made a bold decision that would forever change my life and redefined what success meant to me. To start over, and this time on my own terms. So at just 18 years old, I left my home country of Lebanon and moved to the United States alone. I boarded that plane with fear in my chest, hope in my heart, and a fierce determination to build a new life. At that time, I only had $1,000 in my pocket. I had no plan, no safety net, and no support system waiting for me. And absolutely no certainty about what the future would hold. But what I did have was a vision, a deep sense of purpose, and an unshakable belief that I was meant for more, that my past didn't have to define my future, and that I could create something meaningful from everything I had been through. Coming to the United States was definitely liberating, but it was also deeply challenging. As an immigrant and self-starter, I faced isolation, discrimination, financial instability, and relentless barriers. But instead of allowing these conditions to limit my potential, I redefined success, not by external validation or material gains, but by my ability to transform adversity into opportunity and my vision into impact. I worked multiple jobs while pursuing my education, and I started imagining how I could use innovation to solve real world problems. I wasn't just studying, I was building. I launched two ventures early on when I was a student. Both were acquired, and shortly after I completed my second master's degree, I founded ID4A Technologies. That leap set everything in motion. ID4A wasn't only about developing cutting edge manufacturing technologies, it was about aligning innovation with social justice. We used AI, robotics, machine vision, and other exponential technologies to revolutionize manufacturing processes and transform global supply chains while upskilling workers, reducing workplace inequities, and helping more than 2 million people escape exploitative labor, including more than 426,000 women and girls who had been victims of trafficking and child labor. But none of these achievements came without immense challenges. As a young woman navigating these male dominated industries, I faced constant skepticism, sexism, and pressure to prove myself. But every barrier became a catalyst for growth. And eventually, ID4A earned global recognition, like you mentioned, including White House honor, a spot on the Inc. 5000 list of America's fastest growing private companies, and more awards until the company was also acquired. But for me, the real success was really never about the accolades. It was about breaking barriers, creating change, and building systems that empower people to rise. So when I think about defying the odds, it was beyond overcoming hardship. It was about making bold choices without waiting for perfect conditions. It was about trusting myself amidst profound uncertainty and staying anchored in purpose while building a life and legacy of impact. That to me is the real definition of success. Being able to use your story, your challenges, and your courage to create something that transforms lives and inspires others to do the same as well.
Wow, I don't think anybody could say it any better than what you just said there. And hearing your story and the background and where you came from, the courage that it had to take to make those choices that you did. If there's anyone that can help with breaking those barriers, you have a lot of world experience doing that. I'm so excited to have you here. And I also would love to know, I know in your work, you talk about resilience, not just as survival, but also for our catalyst for greatness. And how can women start to reframe struggle into strength?
Resilience for me has never only been about surviving or bouncing back from adversity. It's about breaking through it and evolving into a more powerful, purposeful version of ourselves. And I believe that for women, this shift is transformational. We've been conditioned to endure quietly, to push through, to adapt, to persist. But we weren't born just to endure. We were made for far more than survival. We were made to rise, to create, to lead. That belief became my foundation, and my early experiences of displacement and survival had taught me profound lessons about resilience and adaptability. I've learned that the most defining moments of our lives are often forged in the fire of adversity. The willingness to take the next step, even when the path ahead is unclear, the choice to lead with vision, not fear, That's what builds resilience, not perfection, but courage and motion. I didn't wait for perfect conditions or external validation. I started where I was. I created with what I had. I worked many jobs to complete my degrees. I led innovation in industries where I wasn't expected to lead. I launched ventures that aligned technology with social change and built systems that empowered millions of people. I wasn't just building businesses for profit, I was building pathways for others to rise. Deep down, I wanted to show what's possible when you lead from your story and your pain, not in spite of it. For women to do the same, they must give themselves permission to dream beyond survival, to use our stories and lived experiences not as limitations, but as blueprints for leadership, innovation, and legacy. So when we talk about reframing struggle into strength, it truly begins with seeing struggle as a source of wisdom and power rather than seeing it as a failure or a weakness. We stop asking ourselves the wrong questions, such as, why is this happening to me? And we start asking the right questions, such as, what is this preparing me for? That simple reframe or shift in questioning unlocks a profound transformation for us. Because true resilience is not about enduring struggle, it's about transforming it into power. And when women embrace their challenges as catalysts, they step into leadership with authenticity, vision, and unstoppable strength.
Wow. And breaking societal barriers is a big theme in your message. What mindset shifts are the most powerful for women who want to lead boldly in spaces where traditionally they have been excluded?
Great question. Breaking societal barriers starts within. Before we can challenge external systems, we have to break free from the internal narratives that tell us we're not enough, or we're not ready, or we don't belong. For women who want to lead boldly in spaces that have traditionally excluded them, the most powerful mindset shift is this: you don't need permission to lead, you need conviction. Too often, we're conditioned to believe that we need permission, we need approval, or some formal invitation. And so many of us, unfortunately, wait for external validation to lead. But bold leadership doesn't start when someone gives you a seat at the table. It begins the moment you stop shrinking to fit outdated systems and asking for approval, and you start showing up as your fullest self and your values, your voice, and your vision. And part of that leadership is redefining our relationship with failure. It's about embracing the idea that failure isn't the opposite of success, but an inevitability and the process of getting there. Especially that society has been teaching us to fear failure and to see it as a disqualifier when it can be one of our greatest teachers. Every setback, every rejection, and every painful lesson is part of the blueprint that shapes your strength. So when women stop seeing failure as a reflection of inadequacy and start using it as fuel for refinement, it becomes like a training ground for resilience that turns pain into power. Another powerful shift we need to make as women leaders is moving from competition to collaboration. For too long, we've been led to believe that there's only space for one woman at the top, that if one of us rises, it somehow threatens the chances for another. But that scarcity mindset is a myth. The truth is, when we dismantle that belief and begin building ecosystems of support, when we choose to mentor, to uplift, and champion one another, we don't just rise alone, we rise together and we multiply our impact. We also have to redefine what power really means, because it's not about control or domination. True power is the capacity to elevate others. In male dominated spaces, collaboration, empathy, and vision are often dismissed as soft skills, but they are not. They are, in fact, some of our greatest strategic strengths. And when we lead with authenticity and courage, when we bring our full selves to the table, we don't just disrupt the norms, we create new standards. So if we want to lead boldly in spaces that weren't built for us, we have to shift from isolation to solidarity, because we rise faster, we rise stronger, and we rise higher when we rise together. Lastly, and I believe most importantly, remember that your presence is your superpower. And the most revolutionary thing you can do is show up, speak up, and take up space fully, unapologetically, and on your own terms. You don't need to contort yourself to fit in, because you weren't meant to blend in. You were born to break the mold. And as women, we don't have to become someone else to lead. We simply need to remember who we are and lead from that truth. And when we lead with truth, not just tactics, you don't just change the game, you change the rules. That's how we lead boldly. That's how we break barriers, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come.
Boy, we need to be breaking in those barriers for sure. That is what we're here to do, is to look at ways we can. And there's so many nuggets. If you're watching this, you need to rewind and take some good notes, because there were so many beautiful pieces of advice in what you just said, Rania. Now, many women also experience emotional blockages. This is where we come from, is those emotional blockages, self-sabotage, limiting beliefs that are holding us back. And what practical tools or strategies do you recommend to overcome some of these internal barriers that we are facing?
So many women, brilliant, capable, visionary women, find themselves held back not by the lack of talent or opportunity, but by emotional blockages, self-sabotage, and limiting beliefs that they may feel, but often they might not consciously be aware of. But these aren't flaws, and this is where a lot of people mistake these issues. These aren't flaws. They are inherited stories passed down, absorbed, and repeated so many times that inner voice that tells you you're not ready, or you're not qualified, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you don't belong here, who do you think you are, and so on and so forth. But that voice is not your truth. It's a story, and stories can be rewritten. So to overcome these internal barriers, especially among women navigating leadership or life transitions, there are 5 practical tools and transformative strategies that can help you to rewrite these narratives. Key strategy number 1, name the inner critic, then challenge it. This is a cognitive behavioral technique that's very powerful. So literally give it a name. Call it something. Call it doubtful Diane, perfectionist Paula, imposter Ingrid, or whatever fits. Because the moment you name it, you create space between you and that voice. You begin to see it not as you speaking, but as a pattern, as an old program. And once you have that distance, you can challenge it. You can ask, is this belief true? Where did it come from? What evidence proves it wrong? And this reframing turns self-judgment into self-inquiry, and it paves the way for confidence, because more often than not, you'll find that the belief isn't based on reality. It's based on fear or other people's voices in your head. Now, once you've challenged the voice, you go to key strategy number 2. Connect with your future self. Picture the version of you who has already broken through the barriers you're facing right now. And just imagine, how does she speak? How does she believe about herself? What does she believe about herself? How does she walk into rooms? How does she feel? What has she stopped apologizing for? All these questions can help you see things differently. Picture the future self of who you want to become. Write a letter from her to you. Let her remind you that you're stronger, wiser, and more capable than you think, that you're already on that path of becoming her day by day and step by step. Key strategy number 3, when you're tempted to stay small or self-sabotage creeps back in, and it always does, you do what I call taking a micro action of defiance. If the voice, for example, says, "Stay quiet, Debbie," you speak up. If it says you're not ready, take the first step anyway. If it says stay small, take up more space. Because confidence isn't built in your head. It doesn't come from waiting to feel brave. It's built in motion, in doing the very things you think you cannot do. It comes from showing yourself over and over again that you are capable and more than you believed. And as you move forward, I want you to remember this. So let it be your anchor. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are unlearning the lies and reclaiming the truth of who you are. And as Glennon Dowell once said, the braver I am, the luckier I get. Because truly, the real barrier was never your worth. It was forgetting how powerful you already are. So with awareness and intention and practice, you become the author. Be brave, be bold, name the story, rewrite it, and walk forward, not in spite of your fears, but with the strength of a woman who chooses to rise anyway.
What I'm going to do is get myself into my journal and write a letter from my future self to me. We always hear about writing to our inner child, but I think this is such a great idea. Writing things down is so powerful, to just getting it on paper. I always say it's usually rattling around in my head, but when I get it on paper, it makes such a difference. There's lots of different suggestions that we can take to heart and really put something in motion. So I have my action for today. For someone who is navigating a career shift or maybe a major setback, like you said, we all go through setbacks. What is one of the key steps that they can take to start turning that adversity into an opportunity?
Setbacks can be painful, but they also hold creative power. Sometimes the most meaningful breakthroughs begin the moment we stop trying to rebuild what was and we start designing something more authentic to who we are becoming. But when you're in the middle of that uncertainty or loss, it's easy to feel disoriented or stuck. So, one key step someone can take when they're navigating a career shift or a major setback is to pause with purpose and listen deeply to what the moment is revealing. Instead of resisting the disruption, lean into it. Purpose gives adversity meaning. It helps you extract the lesson, the growth, and the redirection that lie hidden beneath the surface. Disruption has a way of stripping away what's no longer aligned and creating space for truth to emerge. The kind we've often been too busy or too afraid or too conditioned to confront. So rather than rushing to fix what's broken or recreate the past or start thinking something is wrong with you, take the opportunity to reflect. What do I truly want to carry forward? What am I ready to release? The aim here is to reconnect with your values and get honest about what truly matters most to you at your core, and let that become your compass. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to chase certainty. What you do need is one bold, values driven step that moves you in the direction of your truth. That honest reckoning is the gateway to your clarity. And even the smallest aligned action can reorient your entire trajectory and set you on the right path.
Now, you have built success across multiple industries and platforms. And I'd love to hear how you personally stay grounded, resilient, and driven without falling into burnout or overwhelm.
That's a powerful question, and one that speaks to a deep tension many high achieving women face. For me, staying grounded and resilient has always meant staying rooted in why I do what I do. Purpose is what fuels me. It's the thread that weaves through every chapter of my journey and keeps me motivated to reach higher. But I've also learned that it's equally important to honor my own limits and needs along the way. Especially that in the early stages of my career, I was constantly in motion, building, pushing, leading, proving, hustling. While that drive helped me break barriers and build success across industries, it also brought me to the edge of burnout. My health began deteriorating and I became increasingly dissatisfied emotionally due to the severe work-life imbalances. Over time, I realized that being in service of a vision doesn't mean sacrificing yourself to it. So I made a shift. I started integrating rhythms of reflection and recalibration into my life. And now I protect time for solitude, creativity, stillness, and meaningful connection. I check in with myself regularly, not just on performance and what I'm doing, but on alignment and how I'm doing it. Am I living in integrity with my values? Is the space still serving my mission or just feeding the momentum? Am I aligned with my purpose? Am I energized by the work or just consumed by it? These are the questions that help me stay grounded and resilient. In fact, resilience isn't only built in crises or forged in constant hustle. It's sustained through conscious alignment between who you are and how you show up, and through practices that keep you connected to your vision, your well-being, and your truth. And the more I personally have invested in inner clarity and boundaries, the more focused and energized I've become. So to anyone feeling overwhelmed, pause, breathe. Remember that you are the instrument through which your impact flows from inside out. Protect your peace as fiercely as your mission, because the most radical act in a world that glorifies burnout and hustle is to lead with clarity, conviction, and care for your purpose and for yourself. You don't have to sacrifice yourself to serve the world. When you lead from wholeness, you don't just preserve your fire, you awaken it and ignite it in others, and you become a beacon that lights the way forward as well.
I love that. And one of the other things that you said that really, I think, to challenge people, and this is one that is really for me to pause and think of, am I energized or am I consumed by what I'm doing? What a great question. And all of it was great, but that really resonated with me because that's that sign of we're busy being busy. And when you can stop and really think about that question, then you might be quite surprised at what the answer is. And I know recently I got consumed and just I got to step back and figure out what am I going to do so that I'm not going to lead myself to burnout as well? What a great question. Everything. Yeah. And Rania, your whole experience, what you've accomplished in your life so far is just very inspiring to me. And I know it's inspiring to the audience as well. And also, this very powerful, what you've told us and talked about in this conversation. And thank you for showing us that success isn't about never facing challenges. It's actually about how we rise through them. And I know that you have an amazing free gift for our audience, and I would love for you to tell us all about it.
Sure. So I'm offering a 90-minute life and career transformation strategy session, plus a 50% discount toward a full 6-session coaching package. For you to claim it, I invite you to follow my Instagram page, Rania Hoteit _official public page, like the Women Who Lead Summit announcement post, and comment below that post, Women Who Lead gift, and my team will get to you and DM you and finalize that booking. I typically have you directed to my website, but it's now under construction, so I'm directing everyone to my Instagram. So that would be the best way for you to claim this gift.
Beautiful. And if you're listening right now and watching us as we speak, the directions are below on how you can claim this amazing free gift. That's so generous of you. And Rania, again, thank you so much for taking the time today to be with us and for us to be able to get just a little bit of the experience that you have gathered and gained through your journey so far in life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Debbie. It was an honor to be with you here today.